Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the next step in the SaaS growth system. We are now going into step 2, outbound growth and outbound prospecting. We're going to start today with a module on creating your ABM lead list. And then in upcoming lessons, we'll be talking about outbound prospecting and building a content machine. Let's jump in and let's get going. So today we're going to talk about outbound prospecting. There's really two parts of outbound prospecting. There's building your lead list, and then there's setting up automated sequences of messages via email and LinkedIn, and sometimes cold calling and voicemail drops to reach out to those prospects that are in your target market. We're going to start by talking about how to create your ABM lead list. Now, if you've been watching this, you know that the big picture 30,000 foot view of our strategy is start first with a list of everyone in your target market, which we'll tell you how to build in this lesson, and then start doing outbound prospecting and matched audience ads to those people to make your brand omnipresent and to own your niche, to dominate your sector. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about first how to define who your ICP is, your ideal client profile. And then once you know who you're targeting, create an ABM lead list of all the emails and all the phones of the potential clients in your target market to take someone who is an anonymous stranger into a known entity and someone who is actively interested in what you offer. B2B marketing is, after all, a combination of offering a great product, building the right list, reaching out to the right people, and doing it often. You'll often need to reach out 10 to 15 times before you'll even get someone's attention, and sometimes even 30 to 40 times before you'll get them to take action. So don't let not reaching out enough and don't let not having the right list stop you from your growth goals. We scaled from 0 to 2.5 million at SaasRise within our first year in business by building an ABM lead list of the 450,000 people in our target market, all the SaaS CEOs and founders in the world, with at least 10 employees, with at least $1 million in ARR, and then reaching out to them one by one, many times, and inviting them through high quality content and bespoke invitations that were customized and tailored to them to join our masterminds and join our community. And that's why some of you are here today. So outbound works when you reach enough people. And the biggest challenge with outbound is people only try to reach out to 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people. In order to make outbound work with a mid-market company where the ACV is 5, 10, 15,000, you really need to do it at scale. You need to be sending out 100,000, 200,000 outbound prospecting emails per month. Now, if you're in the enterprise and your ACV is 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, and then you can be fine with, doing 5,000, 10,000 emails or even less, 3,000 a month, because then the value of getting a customer is so high, you're essentially whale hunting. All you need to do is close 1 or 2 customers a month and you're good to go. In mid-market, you need to close 10, 20, 30, 40 customers a month to really build a scalable system. And in order to do that, you need to be doing 100, 200 demos a month. And in order to do that, you really need to be reaching out to 100,000 people, well, probably 30 to 50,000 people a month with about 5 to 10 emails each. So 250,000 to 500,000 emails per month for a mid-market firm to make outbound marketing work. So this section is generally relevant for B2B mid-market and enterprise firms where the ACV is at least 1,000, ideally 5 to 10,000 and up. This ABM lead list building doesn't particularly work for SMB or consumer marketing. So you can just continue on to the paid ad section or the content machine section if you are at SMB where your ACV is less than $1,000 per year. All right. So why do you have to have an ACV of at least $1,000 for this to make profitable sense? Well, you got to buy the data and you got to buy the ads and you got to set up the outbound sequences and you got to warm up your inboxes. And to do all that, it costs money and it costs time. And you're going to be able to generate through this strategy maybe 20 customers a month, 10 to 20 customers a month if you do it right. Because of that, it really only makes sense when you're multiplying that by 5, 10,000 a year or higher. Otherwise, the cost of the data and the cost of the ads aren't going to be covered by the revenue coming in from the customer. Hope that makes sense. The higher your ACV, the more profitable this section will be for you. And if you're solidly in the mid-market with a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 ACV, or solidly in the enterprise segment with $50,000 and up ACVs, you are going to be able to make this work. All right. So what are the channels that tend to work most based on target market? We've covered this a little bit in prior sections, but in the mid-market, you add in what we're talking about today, which is matched audience ads, outbound email, and outbound LinkedIn. And in the enterprise segment, you also add in the same channels as well as a bunch of others. The higher your ACV, the more you can invest in offline marketing, trade shows, events, ABM list building, outbound prospecting, cold calling, field sales, and analyst coverage. The sort of tools of the trade of B2B, ABM, mid-market, and enterprise marketing. All right, so let's look at step one here of our system. Step one is you build your ABM lead list. We're going to show you how to do that today. You're going to use these tools that you see on the screen, like Apollo, Instantly, Lucia, Zoom Info, ListKit, Seamless, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Uplead, and so many more. There's a bunch of these out there now. We'll tell you which ones are the best, ones that are least expensive and have the best value and best quality data. And then once you have your list, you're going to then start doing outbound marketing, which we like to use Instantly for. We're biased because they're one of our clients, but we love them. The product is good. It works. It's at a low cost. You can use Instantly for $39 a month. And even if you're sending out 100 to 500,000 emails like we recommend, it's still only $397 a month. So it's not a huge amount of money. It's a lot less expensive than the alternatives out there like Clay or 6 Sense or Demandbase, which are more for enterprise demand gen tools. So once you have your ABM lead list, you start doing your outbound sequences. You can do it via email using LinkedIn and via LinkedIn. You can do it via email using a tool called Instantly, of course, and Apollo. And you can do it via LinkedIn using a third-party service provider like SoPro. And there's many LinkedIn prospecting agencies as well. And then finally, once you get those two parts of the system going, you also want to have your matched audience ads. It's like providing air cover for your sales team. You don't want to leave your SDRs alone in the field and cold at night. You want to provide blankets and you want to protect them from everyone and make sure everyone knows about your brand by the time they reach out. So that's where matched audience ads come in. We encourage mid-market and enterprise companies to target around anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 impressions per week in order to saturate your target market and become omnipresent in your field. If you're doing 1 million to 4 million impressions per month, you're probably able to get 10 to 20 to 30 impressions per person in your target market for a mid-market enterprise company, and that is what you want to move the needle. So the reason why outbound marketing and the reason why matched audience ads don't work for mid-market and enterprise companies is usually that they don't do enough of it. And so if you're sending out 3,000 outbound emails a month, 100 a day, it's probably not going to move the needle for you unless you're really small and you're just trying to get your first 5 or 6 customers. But if you're already at 500 customers, 1,000 customers, and you're trying to build up a system that generates 100 plus customers a month or 10 plus customers a month if you're in the enterprise, you need to do it at scale. You need to be able to, number one, get the right list. Number two, get the right message in the right sequence. And number three, combine that messaging and sequencing and list with the right audience ads, matched audience ads, sometimes called custom audience ads, running on Meta, LinkedIn, Google Ads, AdRoll, Bing, and Taboola. So that is the big picture here. So at the 30,000 foot view, you're building your list using these tools. We'll show you how to do that today. You're installing an ad tracking tool to actually set up your matched audience ads and retargeting ads. And then once you have that, you're turning on all the other types of ads, which we'll talk about in the paid ad section coming up in step 3, which is paid growth. And then you're also doing, which we'll talk about today, outbound prospecting and setting that up. That's in the next lesson. All right, so what is account-based marketing, ABM? So account-based marketing involves creating a list of target accounts and target people at those accounts, and then using every available channel, email, ads, voicemail, phone, direct mail, FedEx packages, trade shows, events, field visits, even putting on your own conference, every available channel to reach those people, knowing that it will take many touch points to get them aware, interested, have desire, take action. ADA, the formula of marketing. So first, to build your ABM list, you need to establish a clear definition of who your ideal client profile is, your ICP. And that's things like the job titles, the industries, the company size, the company revenue, employee count, geographic locations, and verticals of your ideal customer. All right, so you're ready to get your hands dirty. If you're a mid-market or enterprise B2B SaaS company, let's get going and let's actually start making this happen. So who do you sell to? Write this down in a Google Doc now. You can pause the video or you can write it down in a notebook, but we need you to write this down. Who are the job titles of the people that decide, who are the main decision makers on your offer, that if you can't get in the room, then you can't get the deal closed. And then who are the people that influence the decision but might not be the main contact? Write down all those job titles because we're going to search for them in a few minutes on tools like Apollo and tools like Seamless and Instantly. And then write down the industries and verticals you sell to most, the countries and regions you sell to most, the company size by employee count that you tend to sell to, and the company size by revenue. That's the beginning of developing your ICP. So once you've written all this down, then you're going to want to use the tools, any of the tools on the following pages. These are called lead prospecting tools to build your ABM lead list. I suggest starting with Apollo.io, Seamless, Crunchbase, or Instantly. These are the easiest. Seamless has been one of our clients and we've worked with since 2019. Instantly has been one of our clients since 2024. And we help, they're part of our community. We help them grow. And I not only think they're great products, I think they're incredibly well priced as well, that allow you to build a list of exact people in your target market at a low cost. We're talking a few $100s. So here's an example from SaasRise. So who are we targeting? We're of course targeting CEOs and co-founders and founders of software as a service companies. We're only reaching out to those three types of people, and mostly English-speaking world, North America, Europe. US is about 67%. US, Canada is like 70% of our market. When you add in the UK, Australia, we're looking at about 80% of our market right there. The rest is in probably mostly Europe and the Middle East. Company size by employee count we target is 11 to 500. Some of these platforms have employee count, which they usually grab from LinkedIn based on how many LinkedIn people say work at that company. It tends to work for white collar companies, but actually blue collar companies where those people might not have a fully filled out or up-to-date LinkedIn profile. And then and some of these have annual revenue where they will estimate the annual revenue if they're private or know the annual revenue exactly if they are public. So that's our target market. And then once we had our target market, we started last September going through this system and building our ABM list, starting doing outbound marketing, and then doing matched audience ads. And that's how we've added our first $2.5 million in ARR to SaasRise over the last year. So we talk a lot about making a brand omnipresent. How do you do that? Well, just to recap, first you build up this B2B list of everyone in your target market. That's what we're going to show you how to do in a few minutes. And then you're going to warm up a few email inboxes for 21 days on a tool like Instantly. Start an outbound B2B email sequence to the folks in your ICP. You want to send at least 200 to 500 targeted emails per day per inbox. Some people think that's high, but I've done it myself, and that's about what I find to be the right number. Some people say 50, but I think they're being too conservative there. Now, what's the difference between outbound prospecting and spam? Spam is content that is irrelevant and unwanted and untargeted. Okay, B2B prospecting is relevant and highly targeted and high value. So that is the difference. If you start sending out untargeted content to untargeted lists, you're going to be marked as spam. You're going to get terrible inbox deliverability, and people just aren't going to appreciate you. Now, if you instead build lists thoughtfully and offer valuable content that educates the market, that is unique, either in short form or long form, video or written, that allows the target to learn something of value, offer them a webinar, offer them a PDF, offer them some form of education, and respects their time and respects the opt-out when it happens, then you can actually get 30%, 35% open rates and very low spam complaint rates, and do what pretty much every B2B company in the world that's growing does, which is figure out who their target market is and then reach out to it, which is sort of the whole point of marketing in the first place. You can also test AI video emails using a tool called Potion, sendpotion.com, another SaaSRise member, which puts a Loom video over their website and then uses AI to change the name. Or you could test ringless VM drops using voice drops if you have phone numbers, which you can get on these various lead prospecting tools like Apollo. Now, and you can also use a tool like Full Enrich to get a lot more phone numbers. Now, if your ACV is north of 25K, you can even test B2B cold calling using outsourced SDRs. We've found good outsourced SDRs using a firm called wingassistant.com and recruit.com, ROO, recruit, like recruit, but ROO, they're from South Africa. And then finally, you want to upload this list, this B2B list of contacts to Meta, LinkedIn, Google, AdRoll, and Bing, the 5 major ad networks, and start showing matched audience ads to this audience. You also want to turn on retargeting ads so that your brand becomes omnipresent in your ICP. You follow these 5 steps within 90 days, you are going to have pretty much everyone in your target market, or at least 50 to 75% the people who see the ads and open emails, aware of your brand, and that will pay dividends for many years to come. So voila, your brand is now omnipresent within your ICP. Well, if only they were that easy as reading a slide. It does take 30 to 60 days to set these systems up. Happy to provide this course so that you can do it on your own. If you'd like to do it with us, we do have a done with you implementation program that adds in both outbound prospecting and paid advertising, and that is available on our website, SaasRise.com. And we also have a done for you program where we'll just do the whole thing for you at a slightly higher cost. So here's an example of market sizing. And this is important to think through for your company. You want to do this exact same exercise. You can just copy this spreadsheet and do it yourself, copy the slide and do it yourself. And what we did is we looked at all the main lead prospecting tools from LinkedIn Sales Navigator to ZoomInfo. And we added up all the contacts that are in our ideal client profile, which you can see there is defined on the right. And once we exported the list from all of these various platforms, we ended up with about 450,000 unique contacts in our ICP. And that's a rough estimate because, to be honest, we've only had enough capital to buy about half of these lists so far. So there might even be more than 450,000 once we actually get them all. But we were able to go out and get the LinkedIn Sales Navigator, the Seamless, the Apollo, the List Kit, the Crunchbase, the Uplead, the Lucia, the Instantly, and the PitchBook. We still haven't yet done ZoomInfo or Grata or Adapt or Ocean because they're a little more expensive, but we have most of them. And we were able to build a deduped list of about 450,000 people in our ICP. The total cost of all the data and lists that we purchased for our B2B segment over the last year is about $50,000 to $60,000. So it's not inexpensive, but you can start with a tool like Apollo.io, where you can get, through third-party data providers that have Apollo.io enterprise licenses, you can get Apollo contacts at about $600-700 per 100,000 records. And so we were able to go out and get everyone in our ICP on Apollo.io, those 46,200 people, for not that much money, $300-400. And that's where we started. And then once we filled out that audience and sent the email sequences, outbound sequences to that audience, and we ran out, then we started having to go to the other tools where it was a little more expensive to get it. Apollo is a great value. Instantly is a great value. Both tools you can get the needed leads for, $500 in that range. Now, if you go and do the retail pricing on Apollo.io and get your own enterprise account, maybe it's a few $1,000s. What we do is we use Fiverr, and we find people who already have high volume Apollo licenses that allow them to export, $1 million plus contacts a month. They'll pay $20,000, $30,000 a month for that. And then they'll resell that access to, dozens and dozens of people through tools like Fiverr and Upwork each month. And so you end up paying a lot less that way. So use tools like Fiverr, and you can get these contacts for around anywhere from $500 per 100,000 records up to maybe $5,000 to $10,000 per 100,000 records, depending on the platform. And start with Apollo and Instantly because they're the best value. This is what you want to do. We found people on Fiverr with access to Seamless, Apollo, PitchBook, Crunchbase, Lucia, who can get bulk pricing and pass along the savings or reutilize the licenses that they're already paying for, where they have unlimited exports, or they're able to screen grab to be able to scrape the data. So this is how you build these lists. And then once you build the list, then you start sending outbound sequences, which we'll talk about in the next section. And then you start doing matched ads, which we'll talk about in the paid ads. And then at the end of that, that is when you're able to dominate your market by covering your niche and becoming omnipresent. I'm passionate about this topic. It's, I think, fascinating and it's exciting. You can use tools like Apollo to find everyone in your niche pretty quickly. They don't have the biggest coverage, but they're a great tool that is very low cost. You can go on Fiverr to find people with access to this, where you can export 50,000 to 100,000 records for around $500, like I mentioned. Tools like Seamless, they had over 50,000 people in our ICP. I think probably more like 100,000, but they don't even give you the number when it's over 50,000 on Seamless. Seamless is not the best though, because it's limited to 1,000 exports a day. So we literally had to pay someone to export 1,000 records a day for 50 days, which took too long. And then they'll charge you way too much money if you want to get it all at once. So I do, because of that reason, like Apollo.io and Instantly much better. All right, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a little more expensive because you have to combine it with other tools like Wizza or Seamless to actually get the email. But it does have comprehensive and accurate data, and had 160,000 records in our ICP, which allowed us to reach out to people like you and find you both on the internet through ads and through email. ListKit's a great tool. They're a member of our community. They had a substantial size, 177,000 people in our target market. Ocean.io didn't have as many people in our ICP, but it had very strong niche and vertical data. So we could go in and export lists of people in AI, augmented reality, cloud computing, 3D technology, meeting software, and many other niche communities that allowed us to then set up verticalized based targeted messaging and say, hey, everyone in MarTech, or everyone in supply chain software, everyone in meeting software signing up for SaasRise, you should too. And that sort of bandwagon effect is a great way to get people onboarded. Crunchbase is good for people who have raised venture capital, which is good for our market. You'll have to think through your own market, whether you're targeting CFOs, CTOs, CMOs, heads of sales, HR, CEOs, etc. But it had very good quality data, especially for companies that have raised money. Lucia had 78,000 contacts. Adapt, which is expensive, but is probably the largest in terms of data coverage from what we could find. You can see here they have 347,000 contacts available, plus they have a whole bunch of vertical granular areas that you can micro target. We haven't used this yet. This is going to be where we go next, but I think this, when we do start using it, it's going to be really valuable to us. Potentially we'll reach out and say, hey, we'll partner with you and promote you to our community in exchange for a license. We'll see. Uplead is another lead prospecting platform that had 48,000 records, and then Instantly, which is a fantastic email prospecting tool that warms up the inboxes for you and sets up the AI personalized messaging for you. They also have a data feed from other sources, and you can bring these leads directly into the platform. So it's a little bit easier to use in Apollo and a little bit lower pricing than Apollo. I love Instantly. So check them out, maybe even start there. If I were telling you where to start with Instantly and Apollo. And then once you've finished reaching out to all those people, then add in the other networks. And then lastly, Grata, which is a sort of M&A research. You could also look at Capital IQ or PitchBook. Grata had 61,000 companies in our target market. So now that you've built your leads list, you've exported at minimum your Apollo and Instantly lists, maybe you've got a few from Seamless, a few from LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now that you've built your full comprehensive as possible within your budget ABM leads list, how do you turn those anonymous leads that don't know you into paying customers that can refer your company over and over? So you do that by doing B2B outbound prospecting, content marketing, and matched audience ads. And in the upcoming lessons, we're going to show you how to do exactly this. So homework for this week, build your leads list. Build your leads list. One more time, build your leads list. This isn't just about a hypothetical exercise. This is how you scale revenue if you are in the mid-market or if you're an enterprise in B2B SaaS. Build your leads list of everyone in your target market using the tools listed in this lesson. If you don't have that much money, you got $1,000, $500, great. Start with Apollo Instantly. If you have some capital, you got a good balance sheet, you got some venture capital, you can put $50,000 into building a lead list that's completely comprehensive. Take a 3 or 4 week period, put someone good on this on your team, and build an extremely comprehensive list in your target market. You can even enrich it using tools like Clay or Full Enrich or Full Contact. What's coming up in the sections to come, feel free to get started early if you want. You can upload your leads list into Instantly to start doing your outbound reach outs. Now, of course, warm up your inboxes for about 3 weeks first. You can upload your leads list into ad networks like Meta, LinkedIn, Google, Bing, and AdRoll for matched audience ads, so your brand becomes omnipresent within your target market. And then you can turn on 180-day visitor retargeting ads on Meta, LinkedIn, Google, Bing, and AdRoll, so your brand becomes known to everyone in your sector. This is how you do it in B2B, mid-market, and enterprise marketing. I hope this is interesting. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, reach out to me directly on Slack or WhatsApp if you're a SaasRise member. And feel free to reach out on email as well, ryan@saasrise.com. Next time, next lesson, we're going to talk about once you have the list, what do you do with it? We're going to walk you through how to do outbound prospecting. It's going to be fun. We're here to grow your revenue and prepare yourself to create a predictable revenue stream. Thanks for watching. Ryan Ellis from Austin, Texas, signing off for today.